let's talk about Thor and Hulk teaming up. So rumors are, and this is from a website called JoBlo.com, that we might be seeing Thor and Hulk team up in Thor 3 Ragnarok. Now, what we've seen so far is that the report says that Thor 3 is set on a distant planet. So nobody's quite sure where this planet is, but Thor 3 is going to be set on this distant planet that is not Asgard or Earth.
Planet Hulk,
and that
calling it.
That's and that for some reason, Thor will show up, and so will Hulk. So, yeah, now there's a lot of rumors out there it's going to be Planet Hulk, which, if you ask me, you cannot have a Planet Hulk inside of said Thor movie. It just wouldn't make sense. You can't flesh out a story, proper story at least.
There shouldn't be a third Thor movie to begin with. They're just, I guess he did better, so why not just piggyback on Thor to make a Hulk movie? I mean, they're making a Civil War movie within a Captain America movie. That's a much bigger thing to squeeze into one other person's movie.
Yeah, but it makes sense what they're doing. The Marvel Universe is trying to create a overall, a really big story arc that goes through phase 1, 2, 3, 4. And they'd like to team their characters up, which makes sense. I mean, these characters, especially like Thor, wasn't as big of a box office hit as some of the other ones. But what was the best part of Avengers 1? In my opinion, it was Thor and Hulk. Either whether they were fighting each other or they were just kind of playing around joking with each other, those two were some of the most fun we had with the Avengers, so why not throw them together? Now, the distant planet and it being Planet Hulk, I'm not quite sure about that. Like I said, it would just take a little bit much. Maybe you have some sort of planet where, maybe like some frost giants or fire giants. There's a lot of different giants out there. Or Loki is controlling this planet and he somehow gets Hulk and he's pitting them against other people for his own amusement. And then Thor shows up and, tries to save the day. But there's a couple ways this can go. So if you look at the story arc of Ragnarok, as I believe it's supposed to unfold in the comics, which is the end of the universe event, you have the 9 realms are being plunged into darkness, because there's some big giant wolves come out and they eat the sun and the moon, and so darkness in all the 9 realms, which is interesting. And then what happens after the 9 realms are plunged into darkness is the Fenris wolf and Jormungand. Fenris wolf is a giant wolf, as you can tell, and Jormungand is a giant serpent. Yeah. And they're released on Midgar. Now, again, I could see, so this distant planet might take the place of Midgar. I can see that happening. Instead of destroying Earth, which would bring all the superheroes probably into the story, they're just going to focus more on another planet. That way you can have Hulk and Thor, and you can have them doing their own thing, and it would make more sense not to have all the rest of the superheroes. Because think about it. If this was all happening on Earth, you have to have the Avengers come together. It wouldn't work
better
otherwise.
Stuff to do. Better stuff to do than save the entire world.
Save the entire universe. Yeah, why not? So after those two appear, Jormungand is poisoning the Earth. When he breathes, apparently, it poisons the Earth and the sky, and it just becomes a horrible, horrible land. And then we see the appearance of frost giants. They show up on one ship. And then you have Loki leading some of the inhabitants of Hell. Hel is how it was described, not Hell, but I'm guessing they're meaning the same place. They all show up.
It's vaguely similar, yeah.
Yeah, and then you have the fire giants show up as well, Muspelheim, and these names are very hard to pronounce. I wish they weren't. So all those forces come together and they make up the evil side. Well, then on the good side of the Ragnarok story, you have gods. I'm guessing that's the Asgardians. You have other leftover giants. You have dwarves. You have demons, which is kind of interesting. Maybe those are the guardians of Hell, and they're kind of angry that Loki took a whole bunch of their people out of Hell. I don't quite know why demons would join the good side, but apparently in this story they do.
I wonder. I don't know how it plays out in Thor the comics, but I wonder if those might be how the Thor comics treat the other group of gods. There's the Asgardians, and then there's some other rival group of gods that show up in the myths at some point that kind of go back and forth, that they fight at some points and then they make peace at some points. So maybe that's them. And they would want to save themselves from total destruction, so they might team up for that reason.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. And then you also, on the good side, you have both dark and light elves apparently join the forces of Thor and Odin. So a big battle royale is supposed to happen, which would be pretty cool. And I could see Hulk fitting very well in there. Maybe instead of Odin showing up, you have Hulk and Thor showing up on this distant planet to battle this huge army of evil forces that is about to start invading the Nine Realms. That would kind of make sense. And pretty much in the story, everybody's supposed to die. Yeah. Thor kills Jormungand and then just dies from the poison. Odin and Fenris Wolf fight a lot, and then Fenris Wolf swallows Odin whole. And then one of Odin's other sons, because apparently there's other sons of Odin, which haven't been pictured. I think. Which haven't been pictured in the films, but yeah, in Norse mythology, there's definitely plenty, and I believe in the comics he has brothers and stuff like that. One of his brothers rips open Fenris Wolf, rips his jaw off, and that causes Fenris Wolf to explode. Or no, I'm sorry, that causes he fights Muspelheim, and Muspelheim, the fire giant, explodes and destroys all of the Nine Realms. So, cool. Yeah, that sucks for everybody. But I imagine that is probably what the movie's going to be focused on. This distant planet they're talking about is where the battle will happen, and we'll see all the fun stuff throw down there. Now, during my research on Ragnarok, I also came across another one. There's a character actually called Ragnarok, which I wouldn't be too surprised if they incorporated this into the film instead of maybe this universe-ending event, because Ragnarok in the comic books is actually, he pops up in Civil War. At some point during the founding of the Avengers, Hank Pym gets a hold of a hair of Thor, and Thor has disappeared during the Civil War events, and he uses that to clone a cybernetic clone is what they call it, which is kind of weird to me. I don't know how cybernetic
cyborg, because they couldn't get all the parts.
Yeah, and so I believe it's actually Reed Richards, Hank Pym, and Tony Stark come together to clone this guy, because they're all on the pro-registration side. And you have him come out, and he fights a lot. They do clone Thor. And in the Civil War series, you actually have Thor, or the Ragnarok Thor. He kills a couple people, and some bad stuff was happening. Like Reed Richards actually has to take him back and reprogram him. And then in the comics, you find out that this Reed Richards or that Hank Pym or one of them, I think it was Hank Pym, it turns out to be a Skrull. And yeah, so not good times there. But I could see the incorporation of another Thor. That might be an interesting way to do it, because the Ragnarok Thor is apparently a lot more powerful than the regular Thor. So maybe we have Hulk and Thor teaming up to kill this Ragnarok Thor and prevent him from spreading chaos across the universe. So that could work as well. Now, how Hulk is going to get to this other planet, I have no clue. Just no clue.
He jumps.
He could jump. He was in a Quinjet, but I do believe they said something about the Quinjet being found in the ocean somewhere and no sign of Hulk. So he could be doing that.
Thor can move between the various. Thor can move between the various places. He should be able to take Hulk with him, couldn't he?
Yeah, but I guess they could put that in there. Maybe, okay, Hulk didn't really disappear. He just went with Thor to Asgard because the Asgardians are a lot sturdier of a people and probably could stand up to Hulk's beat downs a little bit better. Or they could
play some soothing music.
Yeah, there you go. But and the whole Black Widow and Hulk romance thing, I wonder how that's going to play out. But this is the first real thing we've heard about what's going to happen with Hulk. Now, Mark Ruffalo has signed on to do, I believe, 6 movies, possibly more, with the Marvel Studios, and we have not heard about a solo movie for him. So I'm imagining it's just going to be a bunch of appearances in other movies, similar to jumping in with Thor. I don't quite see how they'd fit him in if they're not planning on doing any other solo movies until they get to the Infinity War. So I guess this is their way of kind of squeezing him in there. What might also be cool is if he's floating around space and he runs into the Guardians of the Galaxy, but if James Gunn, the director of Guardians 2, says no, that's not going to happen, which I think that might be cool. But I just see this being a really interesting way of teaming these two up. again, two of the most charismatic characters when you put them together really worked well on screen. So, hey, give them their own movie, and I think we see box office gold. But let me know what you think. Are you excited to see a Hulk and Thor team up movie? What do you think the storyline will be about? Hit us up. Let us know. Comments down below. Of course, at Worst for My Face on Twitter. Google plus Facebook. Always good ways of getting a hold of us.